Well, good morning, everyone. Uh, so, today we're talking about getting uncomfortable and accountability. So, last night, my husband and I are watching some football, having a couple glasses of wine, and I'm thinking to myself, we're going to go to the gym in the morning, and I'm thinking, my workouts just haven't been that great lately. So I'm going to ask my husband if he will train me. And, Aaron and I, we've been working out together for a long time in the mornings. We get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And trust me, if I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning by myself, I would never do it. And so Aaron serves as my accountability partner. And so he wakes me up and gets me out of bed, and we get moving. So that's all well and good. We've been doing that for a couple of years now. And so lately, though, I've kind of been slacking. I'll admit it. Kind of phoning in the workouts, kind of just, oh, I'm here, going through the motions kind of thing. You guys know what I mean. So last night when we're talking, I asked him, will you be my personal trainer? And he kind of rolls his eyes the way husbands do and go, you won't listen to me. And it's probably true. I probably wouldn't listen to him. But I was in it. I was so like, oh, I'm doing this. This is a thing. This is happening. I said, if you catch me whining or crying or telling you I don't want to do it anymore, I'm like, you can totally fire yourself as my personal trainer. And so he's like, all right, Elizabeth, I don't know. So this morning, I had to convince him a second time. I'm like, no, really, I want you to just be my personal trainer. Tell me what to do. Wow. I'm still shaking from this workout. We just got back. I barely had time to catch a shower and hop on here. And he kicked my tail. And it kind of came out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. And he kept telling me, you have to get uncomfortable. This is not going to be fun. This is not a joyride. You're not going to phone it in. You are going to work. And I did. I didn't phone it in. I was gasping for breath. I felt like I'm going to puke any moment now. And that whole time I was like, why did I sign up for this? I asked for this, right? This was my choice. Every part of my workout was my choice. Asking him to be my personal trainer was my choice. And that got me thinking, on our real estate teams, are we phoning it in? If everything on our team is just hunky-dory, that we're going through our day and we're just like, oh, this is fine, things are running smoothly, we're doing deals, getting things done, maybe it's a slow day, so I take the afternoon off. That's getting comfortable. That is complacency. And not that that's a bad thing. I think we all need a season of rest. And if you have seasonality in your market, like we do in Kansas City area, where the winter months are a little bit slower, then okay, take a rest. However, if you want growth, personal and business, it's true, you have to get uncomfortable. And so what does that mean for an admin? How does an admin get uncomfortable? What are you going to implement, overhaul, blow up, that you will get more out of in the end? So does that mean you need to start a new farming area? Does that mean you need to revamp your open house procedures? And instead of, just putting signs in the yard, maybe your agents are door knocking, or maybe you're putting out Facebook ads. Whatever it is, you need to get uncomfortable to get to that next level of business. And I gotta tell you, an uncomfortable workout feels like you're dying. And trust me, I don't think I've breathed that hard since I started training for a 5K. And even then I had a program for that, Couch to 5K. If you're ever interested in running, that is a fantastic program. And that's what I love about systems and programs and stuff, that if I follow the system, if I follow the model, I know what the outcome is going to be. So what system or model do you need to implement to achieve an outcome? If your team wants to do a certain number of transactions in the next 12 weeks, what has to happen? So I wanted to talk about accountability as well. It's very difficult to hold yourself accountable sometimes. That it's easy just to let yourself down and pass it off as, oh, well, I just wasn't feeling it today. It's okay, I'll make it up tomorrow, whatever that happens to be. And so I have this book, The 12-Week Year, by Brian Moran, Moran, The 12-Week Year, and it's the number 12. And in chapter 8, he talks about accountability as ownership. And I read this chapter, and every time I've reread this part over and over again because I think this is so true. No one likes to be held accountable. And he talks about why. So I'm just going to read this part out to you, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So accountability is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in business and life. Most people equate it with bad behavior, poor performance, and negative consequences. As an example, when an athlete does something in violation of the league's conduct policy, the commissioner will state publicly that the league will hold this athlete accountable and then issues a fine or suspension. It's no wonder that most people want nothing to do with accountability. People often talk about holding others accountable, especially in business situations. Often you'll hear management say something like, we need to do a better job of holding people accountable. I've even heard individuals who truly desire to perform better say, I just need someone to hold me accountable. These types of statements reflect the mistaken notion that accountability is something that can and must be imposed. That's not accountability, that's consequences. In fact, it is impossible to hold someone else accountable. I like to joke that you can hold a baby and you can hold a bag of groceries, but you can't hold someone accountable. Accountability is not consequences, but ownership. It is a character trait, a life stance, a willingness to own your actions and results regardless of the circumstances. In the book Freedom and Accountability at Work, Applying Philosophical Insight to the Real World, the authors Peter Kostenbaum and Peter Block discuss accountability as follows. We have a small way of thinking about accountability. We think that people want to escape from being accountable. We believe that accountability is something that must be imposed. We have to hold people accountable, and we devise reward and punishment schemes to do this. These beliefs are so dominant in our culture that they are difficult to question, yet they are the very beliefs that keep us from experiencing what we long for. The very nature of accountability rests in the understanding that each and every one of us has freedom of choice. It is this freedom of choice that is the foundation of accountability. Accountability is the realization that you always have choice, that in fact there are no have-tos in life. Have-tos are those things we hate to do, but do anyway because we have to. The fact is that there are no have-tos. Everything we do in life is a choice. Even in an environment where there are requirements of you, you still have a choice, but there is a big difference when you approach something as a choose to versus a have to. When something is a have to, it's a burden, it's cumbersome, and at best, you meet the minimum standards. However, the realization that you ultimately have choice creates a very different scenario. When you choose to do something, you are able to tap your resources and give your best. It is a much more empowering stance. Ultimately, you choose your actions, your results, your consequences. So think about that for a second. If you have a buyer's agent on your team who says, I want to do a certain number of deals every year, or transactions, and they say, will you hold me accountable? You can check in with them and say, how are you doing? What, are you meeting your goals? But you can't really hold them accountable. What you're asking them is, are you choosing to do the things you said you would do? And are you choosing to fulfill your own desires to get things done. So think about that for yourself as well. What are you choosing to do to help your team move forward? What are you choosing to implement? And remember that in the MREA book, talent pushes and non-talent just takes orders. So if you're a talented admin and you are taking ownership of your role and you see that the business is lacking in some area, push to get that done. You know, your voice on the team is just as valuable as everyone else's, and your ideas are just as valuable as everyone else's. So when you see that there are things that are lacking, push to get those things done. And I would also go as far as to say, if everyone on your team is happy, they're all like, oh, this is the best, they're comfortable, they're fine, things are moving along, but they're comfortable. It's during the times that we're uncomfortable that the business is growing. So think about that for a second. When you have so much work on your plate that you are uncomfortable, you're not getting things done on a daily basis that you should be. You're uncomfortable, you're upset, you're overwhelmed, you're feeling bad about the work that's not getting done. That's a good thing. And I know it doesn't seem that way, yet it truly is. Because it means that there is enough work that maybe you need leverage. Or maybe you need to revamp your systems to become more efficient. But there's only so much of that you can do, right? There's only so much tightening you can do on a screw before it will break. So think about that for a second. When everyone's getting along, things are comfortable. When there's a little bit of discord, when you're fighting with your buyer's agent over whose job it was to get that signature or to talk to that client or whatever it happened to be, that's not a terrible thing. It means people are uncomfortable. It means there's so much work to do that people are trying to step up and make sure it gets done. And that's growth. Every time that happens, every time somebody gets uncomfortable or gets a little out of whack or gets their feelings hurt and gets uncomfortable, that's growth. You're learning from that every single time, and you're building your business based on getting rid of the uncomfortable feelings. So take that for what it is, and think about what you need to do in the next 12 weeks. There's only 12 weeks left in this year. Do you realize that? There may be 11 now. What are you going to do by the end of the year to push and make sure that you have a fantastic beginning of 2017? And if seasonality is a thing and you're a little bit slow now, this is the perfect time to implement a new system and get good at it and learn a new skill so that in 2017 you can start off rocking and rolling. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, or if you want to know where maybe you should be pushing, leave me a comment and I'd be happy to answer any of those comments or respond to any questions as well. I'm always here for you guys, you know that. I'm Elizabeth Gilbert for theassistantfiles.com. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you again on Friday at this same time. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.